When a woman is falling in love, she begins to slowly surrender emotionally, not with grand declarations or dramatic expressions, but in the quiet ways most men overlook. This surrender is not submission, nor is it a conscious choice to appear weak or needy. Rather, it's a soft, natural letting go of the emotional defenses she's learned to carry over the years. She no longer feels the need to constantly impress you, to curate her words carefully, or to wear a mask. The psychological walls begin to crumble in your presence, and in their place you see her as she truly is, unfiltered, raw, and honest. You might notice this transformation in subtle shifts. She stops dressing up for every interaction. She's comfortable showing up in her natural state, without makeup, without carefully chosen words, without a perfect mood. She lets you see her in the middle of her chaos, the unmade bed, the stress at work, the petty annoyance she feels but can't quite explain. It's not because she's careless, but because she trusts you enough to stop performing. There's no longer a need to hide her flaws or present a polished version of herself. Her vulnerability becomes a bridge between you, a silent invitation for you to meet her where she is, rather than where she pretends to be. Her body language changes too. She leans in during deep conversations, not to impress you, but because she feels safe in your presence. Her shoulders relax around you in ways they don't around others. She might breathe deeper, slower, as if your presence allows her to exhale the tension she carries elsewhere. She may stop analyzing your every move, stop preparing mental exit strategies, and start believing in the calm you offer without demanding it. This kind of surrender is deeply feminine, not because it belongs to women, but because it is about letting go rather than taking control. It is the opposite of defense, and it only happens when a woman feels emotionally secure, when she senses that your strength isn't aggressive but grounded. This surrender is not loud or visible to the untrained eye. It's not something you can post about or show off, but it's real, and when it happens, it's one of the most authentic and powerful signs that she is falling in love. Not with your looks, not with your charm, but with the emotional safety you represent. When a woman begins to fall for a man, one of the clearest, yet most misunderstood, behaviors she exhibits is emotional testing. These tests are rarely overt. They don't come with a warning label or follow a consistent formula. In fact, they are often so subtle that many men fail to recognize them entirely, reacting in confusion or frustration instead of calm awareness. But these emotional tests are not a sign of manipulation or cruelty. Rather, they stem from a deeper emotional need, a desire to understand the emotional resilience of the man she is beginning to trust. For her, falling in love means stepping into vulnerability, and vulnerability carries risk. Emotional testing is her subconscious way of asking, "Can you handle my truth without rejecting me? Can you be steady when my emotions are not?" You might notice her canceling plans at the last minute for no apparent reason. Not because she doesn't want to see you, but because she wants to observe how you handle disappointment. Will you lash out? Will you guilt-trip her? Or will you remain composed, signaling that your emotional state doesn't depend on external events? Or perhaps she'll mention another man, a coworker, an old friend, or even an ex, with just enough detail to observe your reaction. It's not about the man, it's about your composure. Will you become possessive, jealous, or insecure? Or will you show that you're confident in who you are and secure in your connection with her? Sometimes the test is more emotional in nature. She may open up about a painful moment from her past, then suddenly pull back, going cold or quiet, just to see if you chase her, question her, or panic. She wants to know if you can handle the parts of her that aren't polished or pleasant. These tests, while confusing to those unaware, are instinctive behaviors tied to a woman's attachment patterns and psychological defenses. They're not a game, but a form of self-protection rooted in her emotional history. For women with anxious, preoccupied attachment styles, these tests are often more frequent and emotionally charged. She might create small conflicts, dramatize minor issues, or overanalyze your words, just to see if you'll abandon her the way others might have. For avoidant types, her tests may involve periods of silence, emotional distance, or subtle withdrawal. In both cases, what she's really seeking is emotional consistency. She wants to know that your calm isn't performative, that you won't crumble under pressure, that you're not just emotionally available when it's easy, but also when it's difficult. Responding to these moments requires a rare kind of emotional intelligence, not the kind that tries to please her or fix everything, but the kind that remains grounded. You must understand that your ability to remain centered, to respond instead of react, communicates volumes more than any comforting words. When you don't flinch, don't overreact, and don't lose your balance, you're proving something she needs to know on a subconscious level, that you're not going to collapse under the weight of her vulnerability, that you're not just attracted to the best version of her, but that you can stand calmly in the face of her worst days, too. Stoic philosophy is especially powerful here. The writings of Marcus Aurelius remind us that true power lies not in control over others, but in control over the self. When you embody this principle, when you face her tests with grace, patience, and unwavering calm, you separate yourself from the majority of men who fold under pressure. You show her that her emotional waves can crash around you, but they will not drown you. And in that quiet resilience, she sees not just safety, but the kind of strength she can finally rest in. When a woman is falling in love, her admiration often takes a form that goes unnoticed by most men because it doesn't always sound like praise. It doesn't come dressed in dramatic compliments or overt adoration. Instead, it reveals itself in quiet, consistent gestures. Mirroring, adopting, adjusting, you'll notice her starting to speak the way you speak. She uses your phrases casually, sometimes without realizing it. She echoes your philosophies in conversations, quotes your words when talking to her friends, or references your perspective during discussions. This isn't mimicry. It's a deep psychological form of bonding. It's her way of merging her internal world with yours, of saying, I respect not just you, but the way you think. This type of admiration goes far beyond superficial attraction. It's not about your looks, your charm, or your status. It's about your internal framework, your values, your routines, your discipline, your belief systems. When she sees consistency in your actions, when she observes that you say what you mean and mean what you say, something primal within her begins to align with it. She starts making choices that reflect your influence. If you're a man who reads before bed, you might find that she starts reading too. If you meditate in the mornings, she may start waking earlier just to feel a similar rhythm. These aren't conscious strategies to impress you. They're unconscious responses to emotional alignment. She doesn't want to just love you. She wants to understand and be understood by you. In moments of disagreement, her admiration still reveals itself, not in the form of argument or resistance, but in how she chooses to challenge you. Rather than reacting with ego, she approaches the conflict with curiosity. She doesn't want to win. She wants to know how you think, how you see the world, and what shapes your beliefs. This subtle shift, conflict with curiosity instead of combat, shows that you've entered her mental space in a meaningful way. You're no longer just someone she dates. You're someone whose mind she values and whose insights she wants to integrate into her worldview. Psychologically, this mirrors the feminine instinct to bond through admiration and emotional resonance. For many women, love isn't just about affection, it's about identity. When a woman starts to weave pieces of your way of life into her own, she's not just adapting, she's bonding on a soul level. This is called identity merging. It's one of the deepest forms of emotional commitment because it shows that she's internalizing what you represent. Your discipline becomes her inspiration. Your values become reference points. Your emotional calm becomes her template. What's important to understand here is that this form of hidden praise is sacred. It's not loud. It doesn't come with applause, but it's constant and transformational. She might brag about you in front of her friends, not about how much money you make or how you look, but about how you carry yourself, how you stay focused under pressure, how you treat people with respect even when no one's watching. These comments might seem small to you, but they are signals that she sees you as rare and worth mirroring. The Stoics believed that virtue is the highest form of goodness, and when a woman is in love, she begins to align herself with the virtues she sees in you. Your patience, your emotional strength, your self-discipline, these become magnets not just for attraction, but for admiration. And admiration, when expressed through identity mirroring, is not about submission or dependence. It's about mutual evolution. She's choosing to grow alongside you, to evolve with your energy, to honor who you are by letting who you are shape who she's becoming. This kind of admiration doesn't need validation. It's not loud or boastful, but it's real and it's transformative. You will see it in the way she listens more intently when you speak, in the way she remembers things you said months ago, and in the quiet changes she makes in her life that align with the man you are. When a woman starts mirroring your essence, she's not just in love. She's seeing you as part of her future, not because you asked for it, but because her heart has decided that your presence is worth internalizing. When a woman starts to feel something real, something deeper than just attraction or interest, a subtle emotional shift begins to take place, one that often catches her off guard. This shift is not loud or obvious, but it reveals itself in a very specific way: jealousy. Not the kind of explosive, dramatic jealousy that leads to confrontations or ultimatums, but a quiet, flickering kind that creeps in through the corners of her composure. It often shows up as an offhand comment, a slightly colder tone, or an oddly timed question. And the reason this happens isn't because she wants to control you or create tension. It's because, whether she's ready to admit it or not, you've gained emotional influence over her. You matter. And because you matter, the thought of losing you, even to a hypothetical someone else, starts to sting in ways she didn't expect. You might notice it when she hears you mention another woman, even casually. Maybe you're talking about an old friend, a female coworker, or someone from your past, and suddenly her mood shifts. She gets quiet, withdraws just slightly, or changes the subject with a half-hearted laugh. Maybe later she sends a message that doesn't seem like a big deal on the surface. Something like "hope you had fun at your little coffee date." But the tone tells you more than the words do. It's not anger. It's not sarcasm. It's discomfort. That little crack in her emotional armor is where her feelings leak out. She's not angry at you. She's trying to navigate a new territory of care, of fear, of wanting something she hasn't yet claimed as hers. Jealousy at this stage isn't rooted in possession. It's rooted in vulnerability. She may not say it out loud, but what she's really feeling is, I like you more than I thought I would, and now I don't know how to handle this. There's an emotional contradiction in her behavior. She may act nonchalant, but her questions become more probing. She might suddenly ask about your ex or your past relationships, not because she wants to argue, but because she wants to understand where she stands. It's a way of collecting data, emotionally decoding how much space she holds in your life compared to others. Most men misread this emotion. They see it as drama, insecurity, or manipulation, but the truth is far more layered. Jealousy, especially in this subtle form, is a mirror emotion. It reflects how much someone cares. We don't feel jealous over things that don't matter. When she begins to feel threatened by another woman's presence, by your time being spent elsewhere, or even by the idea of you moving on, it's not about ego. It's about the emotional stakes. You've become important enough that the idea of losing you is no longer neutral. It's painful, and because she doesn't want to seem clingy or controlling, she tries to mask it. But it leaks out anyway, through her expressions, her silences, her half-hearted jokes, and her random just wondering texts. Sometimes the jealousy is triggered by something as simple as seeing you interact with another woman who makes you smile. It's not about trust. It's about emotional gravity. When a woman feels herself being pulled deeper into her feelings for you, she becomes more sensitive to anything that threatens the exclusivity of that connection, not because she wants to cage you, but because she doesn't yet feel safe. Her emotions have started to invest in you, and that investment feels risky. Her jealousy is not an attempt to punish you. It's a byproduct of her growing emotional dependency. There's an important distinction to make here. Healthy jealousy is not possessive. It doesn't demand or control. It simply exists as a signal of emotional vulnerability, and how you respond to it defines the next stage of the connection. If you dismiss it, mock it, or become defensive, you deepen her insecurity. But if you handle it with calm understanding, without ego, without turning it into an argument, you create safety, and safety is what dissolves jealousy more effectively than any explanation ever could. Philosophically, this aligns with Stoic principles. As Epictetus once said, we are disturbed not by things, but by the views we take of them. The way a woman reacts to perceived emotional threats isn't about the external event, but the meaning she assigns to it. When she sees another woman making you laugh, it's not just about the moment. It's about what that moment might imply. Is she being replaced? Is her place in your life fragile? These questions aren't voiced, but they echo silently in her behavior. Your role, then, is not to fix her jealousy, but to create an environment where she no longer feels the need to protect herself from emotional loss. What most men don't realize is that subtle jealousy is often a silent confession of love. She may never say, "I'm scared to lose you," but she'll ask questions that hint at it. She may never admit, "I want more of you," but she'll show it through her reactions to others who have your attention. She's testing the emotional ground beneath her feet, trying to find out if it's strong enough to hold the weight of her feelings. And if you pass that test, not by appeasing her, but by staying emotionally grounded, you give her permission to relax, to stop guarding herself, and to fall even deeper. When a woman begins to fall deeply in love, something subtle and powerful begins to rise within her, a quiet, unexplainable fear. This fear isn't about the typical concerns that surface early in dating, like being ghosted or not getting a text back. No, this fear is far more profound. It's the fear of loss, but not just any loss. The loss of someone who has unexpectedly come to matter so deeply that the mere thought of their absence creates a silent panic. It doesn't explode outward. It doesn't scream or cry. Instead, it seeps into her small actions, into the tender corners of her speech, into the way she checks on you, worries about you, or lingers in your presence a little longer than necessary. She may not say, "I love you," aloud, but this fear asterisk is asterisk the confession. This fear of losing you shows up in the way she begins to care for your well-being, not as a friend, not out of politeness, but with emotional investment. She reminds you to drive safely. She tells you to message her when you get home. She remembers your flight details and double-checks them. She doesn't do these things out of habit. They're acts of attachment. They're her way of staying connected when she can't be near you physically. Each of these gestures may seem ordinary, but they carry weight because they come from the subconscious belief that something precious could be taken away. You may hear her say things like, "I had a dream you left," or "I don't know why, but I just missed you out of nowhere." These statements are rarely about the literal dream or sudden missing. They are windows into her emotional reality. Her mind, even in its quietest moments, has started imagining life without you, and when that image flashes through her, whether in sleep or silence, it shakes her. She may not fully understand why she feels this way or even admit it to herself, but what she's experiencing is a sense of emotional dependency that's begun to grow roots inside her. This fear doesn't manifest as panic or desperation. That's what makes it so easy to overlook. It whispers rather than shouts. It comes in soft questions like, "Where were you?" or in her reaction to your silence that seems slightly more anxious than usual. She might check your activity online, notice the timestamp on your messages, or subtly try to stay on your radar without being obvious. These behaviors are not about control. They're not about suspicion. They are symptoms of an emotional truth she hasn't verbalized yet, that she's already given you a piece of her emotional world, and now she feels the weight of what that means. At its core, this kind of fear is tied deeply to human attachment psychology. When we begin to bond with someone on a deep level, the brain starts to associate their presence with safety, with emotional equilibrium. Their absence, even momentarily, feels like a disruption to that emotional balance. For someone falling in love, this disruption isn't just uncomfortable, it's threatening. She starts to feel as though her emotional ground is shaking beneath her feet, even if you've done nothing to cause it. This is because love, in its rawest form, requires surrender, and with surrender comes the risk of being hurt. The real paradox of love is that the closer someone gets to our heart, the more power they have to break it. And when a woman senses that her emotional reliance on you has reached this level, she becomes more guarded in some ways, more protective, more prone to these little expressions of worry or care. But it's not always because she fears what you'll do, it's because she's already imagined what it would feel like if you left, and that image haunts her quietly. You may find her saying goodbye to you a little slower, holding her hugs a little longer, checking in more often. None of these behaviors are dramatic, but they are signs of emotional weight. She's not trying to control you. She's trying to cope with the reality that you matter so much. and that this emotional exposure makes her feel vulnerable in ways she hasn't felt in a long time, or perhaps ever. These are the moments when she's not just hoping you'll stay, she's quietly fearing that you won't. From a philosophical lens, this fear is not weakness, it's a mirror of value. We only fear losing what we deeply value. And the way you respond to this unspoken fear determines the depth of the connection that follows. If you recognize it and hold space for it, not by fixing it, not by overpromising, but simply by being present, being consistent, being emotionally aware, you become the anchor she didn't know she needed. You become the safe harbor in the emotional storm she's trying to navigate on her own. She won't say, "I'm scared to lose you," but she'll show it in how often she wants to be near you, in how quickly she notices when something's off, in how attentively she listens when you speak. She'll say it through her care, her concern, her attempts to stay connected in small, meaningful ways. And if you miss these signs, if you brush them off or assume they're just casual expressions, you may fail to see what's really happening beneath the surface, that her love has already taken root, and with it, the quiet but powerful fear of loss that comes when someone has already handed you their emotional trust. Love, when it's real and deeply rooted, often moves silently. It doesn't arrive with fireworks or grand declarations. It slips in through moments, through glances, through pauses, through the unsaid. Most men are trained to listen for words, to wait for direct affirmations like "I love you" or "I can't live without you." But a woman in love doesn't always use language in that way. Instead, she communicates in a language far older than words. It's a language of micro behaviors, contradictions, small rituals, and emotional presence. It's a language that doesn't declare but suggests, doesn't demand but reveals, doesn't push but invites. This is the language most never learn to read, and yet it is the most honest one she speaks. When a woman is falling in love, she doesn't always say it aloud, but her soul whispers it in the quietest moments. The way she listens when you speak about something you care about, even if she doesn't fully understand it. The way she adjusts her plans to see you without needing recognition. The way she brings you coffee the way you like it without asking. The way she remembers the smallest details from your stories, or references something you said weeks ago, as if it was too important to forget. These things don't scream love, but they are love. They are echoes of a heart that has begun to tie itself to yours. She may express care without making it sound romantic. She'll ask if you've eaten, if you slept well, how your day really went, not because she's being polite, but because she genuinely wants to know how you are. She isn't trying to check a box. She's emotionally invested in your well-being. When something good happens in your life, she celebrates like it's her own win. When something bad happens, she holds space like it hurts her too. You begin to feel that your highs and lows matter to her on a visceral level. And still, she may not say, "I love you," because love for her isn't about those three words. It's about the emotional frequency you now share. There's a contradiction in her behavior that can be confusing if you don't understand the emotional depth behind it. One moment she might pull you close with vulnerability, the next she might retreat without reason. One day she might seem fully open, the next she becomes guarded. This push and pull isn't inconsistency, it's emotional self-protection. She's trying to figure out if this space between you is safe, if her heart can land here without bruising, if you'll meet her with presence even when she can't give you clarity. Her heart is learning to trust, and trust is a process, not an event. Even in silence, love leaves traces. The way she sits a little closer to you over time, the way her tone softens when she says your name, the way her eyes linger when she thinks you're not looking. These are not acts of flirtation. They're not tactics. They are the behavior of a woman who has emotionally anchored herself to your presence. Her nervous system has begun to feel calm around you. Her mind drifts to you when you're not there, not with obsession, but with longing. You become the silent part of her daydreams, the imagined presence in her future, and all of this happens long before the words ever catch up. The reason many men miss this kind of communication is because it's not performative. It's not designed to be seen. It's designed to be felt. It's quiet, it's layered, and it doesn't come with certainty. But if you're patient, emotionally tuned, in and grounded, you'll start to recognize the pattern. You'll see the moments where she chooses to stay present, even when she could walk away, where she forgives small things without making a scene, where she sacrifices time, comfort, or ego, not because she's trying to impress you, but because something inside her says, this man matters. This kind of love lives in the subtle. It doesn't care about appearances. It shows up without makeup, without filter, without performance. It's in the way she lets you see her when she's not okay, the way she lets you witness her rawness, not just the curated smiles. She allows you to see the parts of her that are usually hidden, the tired, the anxious, the overthinking, the insecure. And even in those moments, she doesn't say, I love you, but she lets you see her fully. And that permission alone is love in its most sacred form. There are women who will say all the right things but never mean them. And there are women who will say nothing at all but show everything through their presence, their silence, their subtle gestures. Learning to understand this second kind of woman is a skill most men never develop. They seek noise, validation, performance. But the most honest expressions of love are quiet, contradictory, and non-linear. They do not follow rules, they do not come on time, but they always come if you learn how to listen. Not with your ears, but with your awareness, because love doesn't always shout. Sometimes it's in the way she doesn't leave. The way she stays, not because you asked, but because her heart already decided to. So if you've been listening closely, not just to her words, but to her silences, her eyes, her subtle shifts, you've already heard her say it. Maybe not in the way you expected, but in the only way that real love speaks. It's not always loud. It's not always clear. But it's always there, quietly unfolding in the background of every moment she chooses you without saying a word. And when you can recognize that kind of love, when you can feel it rather than force it, you begin to move through relationships with deeper clarity, with patience, with strength. You begin to respond like a man who doesn't need constant validation, because he sees what most men never notice. Love, real love, doesn't need to announce itself. It just needs to be seen.